everyone, and welcome to Women in Data Weekly webinar. My name is Rajvi Mehta, and I am the Regional Sponsorship Lead here at Women in Data. This week, we learn about data literacy and steps of becoming a financial analyst. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Women in Data is a global nonprofit with a mission to increase diversity in the field of data science. We achieve our mission by providing education and organizing symposiums at a local chapter level. Our chapters hold quarterly symposiums, which provide enlightening talks, expert panels, and networking opportunities. Currently, we have 19 chapters all over the world, including 4 international chapters. As the world heals from the virus that we are fighting, we wanted to provide support to our community by offering free webinar series on topics ranging from self-branding, building an abundance mindset, and everything you need to learn about being successful in the data career. Today, we have our first global speaker from Dubai, Fahd Maqba, who is the Senior Lead Business Intelligence and Advanced Analytics Lead employed at Emirates Group in Dubai, where he is managing business intelligence and advanced analytics. Fahad is quite passionate to drive fully data-driven and data-centric culture across the organization. The focus of his initiatives is to drive revenue, reducing the cost, and enhancing the customer experience. He is also known to hold analytical webinars and trainings to spread data literacy amongst people and is a fan of change management. So welcome Fahad, and thank you so much for being a part of this community and helping us push our mission forward. We are extremely excited for this opportunity. So do you want to just get started?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was quite a very good introduction. So thank you, Rajvi, for the acknowledgement on that note. And first and foremost, thanks a lot for inviting me for this session. And obviously, I've seen the Women in Data's initiative, and it's quite promising, especially when it comes to creating awareness on the data science and data analytics space. And women empowerment, which is the keynote. To be quite honest, this is my first ever webinar, although I've attended many sessions and been a panel spokesperson across the community. But this is my first webinar where I'm attending women empowered webinar. So really, it's a privilege for me to be part of it. Initially, when I had a look at the panel list, of the speakers in the webinars, I was a bit worried because I saw a lot of women around and I was the only male amongst the panel. So, but then I realized that I was the lucky one because I'm surrounded by beautiful, talented women. So, to be quite honest, it's one of the innovative webinars which I'm being part of. So, thank you so much.
That's great, actually. And that's not a problem because we want people like you and men like you to support our mission as well. So it's a great opportunity for both of us. And I'm really excited that that you said yes for this opportunity. So I know I spoke a little bit about your background, and I also spoke a little bit about being a business analyst and stuff like that. So I just want to start with the most basic question, and I'm sure you must have heard this question a lot of times. And my question to you specifically is, how do you define data literacy? Like, what is data literacy for you?
Firstly, I'll just give a quick background about where I come from, and then I will delve into the data literacy because you would obviously relate to the kind of organization I'm coming from. So I'm employed for the Emirates Group. I mean, if you travel Emirates Airlines, I work for that company. So it's quite huge company which has a workforce of more than 70,000 employees. And we operate worldwide, given that we have more than 150 countries routes that we fly across. We are obviously the premium carriers in terms of the flagship that we have, especially from Dubai's aspect, from the Middle East aspect. We have more than 270 wide-bodied aircrafts, which is mainly the Boeings and the 777s and the A380s. So you can imagine the sizable, the organization that I come from, and obviously we have more than 50, subsidies, or you can say businesses that we have, which is comprehensive, which looks after the travel as well as the tourism space. So you can imagine the size of the organization and the number of workforce that we have, and we are quite popular in terms of the brand that we carry in the world. So data literacy is quite an important topic when it comes to Emirates, and obviously across the industries where data is the key oil, you can say, because it's more data-driven oriented decisions that have been taken recently than more of a gut feeling decision. So, I mean, to be quite honest to your question, there's no sort of definition. I mean, there are n number of definitions you can say if you have to Google it out. But according to me, it's just the basic ability to read and interpret the information is something called data literacy. I mean, obviously, you can argue that there could be n number of jargons, but I'm just trying to avoid those buzzwords because I think that takes away the essence of the whole topic. But to be quite honest, I think data literacy is quite important because employees having the expertise over a business area is going to be the ones who are, going to take decisions, and those would be very insightful that could bring in the value for the company. So obviously, literacy is something which is a twofold communication. It's just not coming from the executive level, because the way I see it is it's not just the data experts or data scientist jobs, or if it's a machine learning or AI guys who are only full focused towards data literacy, but it's everyone's responsibility and accountability to have this in place. Uh, at the same time, it's also for the receiving parties, because it's just not the data experts, sharing the analysis of the outcome results to the senior most level. It's also the responsibility of the senior most people to interpret those results. So it's important how they are able to have the data literacy's knowledge to interpret those results and take effective decisions. At the same time, I would say that monetizing your data is important, but it should also be consumable and bringing ideas to life. And obviously, data storytelling effectiveness plays a vital role, which I would speak about it later in the session.
That's very interesting, and I think you touched two, three very important points. And I wanted to just elaborate a little bit more on that. The first thing that you said was that it's just not enough to for a team to have data scientists and AI ML engineers. There need to be people who understand the data and take that forward as well. So
Yeah.
my question to you specifically is, there are so many data specific roles that are open at this point right now. How do you define someone who has a business analytics certification or a degree compared to someone who is a data scientist?
Uh, to be quite honest, it doesn't matter, because although we have a lot of specialists and obviously a lot of universities who are offering these kind of roles, I mean, the knowledge that you would be able to enhance in your career path, especially if you want to become an analyst or a data scientist or maybe a machine learning specialist or any other role that which is coming to the analytical space. It really doesn't matter unless and until you know the big picture where you want to go ahead. No matter how much knowledge you gain in terms of your technical skills, or let it be if it's to do with your statistical knowledge, or it could be any requirement that comes from a data analytical space. At the end of the day, it's how you interpret the results, how you're able to communicate the results to the senior most level. Because the way I see it is, the skill, the analytical skill, is not just the need of the hour, but also it's the gap of the hour as well as the future. And with this, I would also say that don't just focus about the programming skills, or any other skills, especially from a data engineering aspect, but also focus about the data storytelling, as well as communicating the results and how you're able to interpret and making convincing the audience. That's more important. I'm telling because this is out of experience. Often what happens is when at the senior most level, people don't understand what you're actually speaking about. And it could be that either they are not able to interpret, that's where your data literacy comes into picture, or either you lack the skill, and that's where you need to optimize your knowledge into the data storytelling. And I always that's something which I always harness within myself is, whenever I'm explaining something to someone, I consider that if I'm able to explain something to a child, and if a child understands, that's your success point. So that's the key message that I would like to convey to the people who are fond of these kind of roles.
So, do you think that data literacy is a skill that can be developed, or is it something that is just there, like you're born with it?
I mean, we are in the 21st century, and obviously, it's not something that it has come up just now. This was even there in the 90s. Data literacy is just that the amount of digitalization that has happened in the recent past, this has become the key norm of it. And we've seen big companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. They're big giants who have given the expertise of the platforms to the companies to enable the businesses. And obviously, with the revolution of e-commerce, data has been on an overflow. So it's not something that has come up recently. It was always there. But to be quite honest, the buzzwords like big data is just there. It's whether it's big data or small data. It's frankly speaking, it doesn't matter, because no matter how much data that you have, it's beneficial until it gets pulled out and gives effective results. Apart from just sourcing a lot of information and just keeping it as it is in the data lake. So it's important that you're able to analyze and provide some actionable insights that gives you business value. And return of investment is quite crucial, especially when you have to give such results, because often a lot of money is spent across for such programs on the data literacy space, as well as investments towards the use cases, funding across scalability and adaptability of the technologies in the organization. So often the use cases and the production output would obviously harness the ROI benefit that you invest. So it's just not about funding so much, putting a lot of investment. You need to actually know where you need to go from an end objective perspective. And it's data literacy is a responsibility of everyone, like I mentioned previously. Although the direction may come from the top level, but it's everyone's responsibility and the accountability to take it within themselves, make a framework out of it. Personally speaking, I have made a data strategy framework which includes data literacy, spreading the knowledge, by having some road shows, because often I feel that these are the key roadblocks for you to proceed in your data strategy further. So you need to focus on these kind of things at the initial zone before you go into the implementation stage. And obviously, the big picture should be harnessed and given to most of the people who are close to these kind of programs, because often they would be able to give you the success, and at the same time, empowerment of people to take or analyze the decisions or analyze the data sets to make effective decisions should be quite important. So long as you involve people in your whole program. So I think it's everyone's responsibility, to be quite honest.
So, I think you actually touched a couple of points for my next question, and you answered my next question as well. Is around like how to advice you have for team managers and team leaders on improving their data literacy. Um, do, Apart from the things that you mentioned about like creating a strategy, doing some road shows, and making sure that the decision is coming from top down, but people who are closest to the data are also empowered with it. Do you have any other key advice points for managers who are not really managers for specifically a team that may not be data literate per se, and like or they want to improve their data literacy?
Yeah. I think before you start off the data literacy, I think it's the culture alignment across the board, because you need to have that culture and the kind of mindset in place for the people to actually know where they're heading to and what is the key objective, what they are expected to do so in any organization. And it's just not specific to the roles specific to managers, but it's across the board. So I think cultural alignment is the first step, I would say. That's a seed that you would need to embark or place amongst the different teams, so that they're able to have that sort of a thinking process where data is the need of the hour, as well as they need to how they can address some questions which could solve some complex business problems. At the same time, you need to have the effective communication strategy in place, apart from roadshows, because roadshows is something which is more of a later stage. These are the key start points which I'm addressing from managers aspect, where you need to have effective communication. You need to be quite flexible in place. Often what happens is, I have led a lot of transformational programs in the Emirates group, but I've seen that a lot of projects are basically more of deadline based oriented than a milestone based oriented. And what happens is, the risk is you lose the productivity, because you are trying to move faster to reach the end objective, but obviously the productivity is compromised. So you need to have a balance between the both. Set more milestones so that you have more productivity, so that people are well engaged to your data literacy and governance plan. At the same time, you need to know where data touch points are. It's based obviously based upon your nature of business. Having big data is good, but it should be aligning to your whole organizational objectives, or your team objectives. So with that in place, if you have a clear strategy in place as a start point, and you're able to communicate these results quite often to all the levels of your team, then you can obviously proceed to have road shows which could promote awareness and drive the culture. Example being women in data, especially when you are trying to have these kind of webinars so that you can spread the knowledge, and that's quite needed. So henceforth, we have a lot of communities within the organization, or you can have some guest speakers from the outside community who can probably come as a spokesperson and can obviously share the knowledge. Because I think we are living in a world who's more of, I mean, where there's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of technology, and I think it's best time to utilize it, rather than working in silos, or trying to see who is the best competition. I mean, how do we look best in terms of competition? Rather than that, I think it will look quite more stronger if you collaborate more with the industry experts, and see or try to understand the industry challenges that every organization has from a data driven aspect or data literacy aspect. And if it is highlighted by any of the data experts, then I think you need to be not surprised, because that's a common problem. And that's where you need to then engage with them, how you can get some best practices to mitigate those challenges. And obviously with all this in place, with road shows in place, it's obviously good to have some use cases, some strong use cases which could drive this kind of initiatives, or give some productivity, so that people have more confidence in terms of the strategy that you have for the future. So use cases are quite important, and obviously the deployment aspects. So these programs obviously will help engage people to be part of your initiative. And I'm sure that it's not that we are there yet. From my organization perspective, we are quite good in terms of how we are adapting to this change and adopting the data strategy in place. But I think that's an industry where we are all moving forward towards, and that's the end goal. So I think that's something which is quite promising for all of us. And yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Those are some really helpful points, and I'm sure the team managers and leaders who are listening right now might really benefit from what you just said. Do you have like on? Do you know any names of leaders who are doing some data literacy programs like extremely well? Do you know any industry leaders in this space?
Um, to be quite honest, there are many. I would not mention the names, but I think you can. There are a lot of forums in LinkedIn, especially, where you could be part of, or you can engage them in terms of women in data as from that space. I've been part of many conferences in the past from Microsoft, where I've been a spokesperson, as well as IBM summits, as well as some from Excelia from a travel industry aspect, and some from IATA, which is more from an airline aspect. So there are multiple experts sitting in all the industries. It's just that you need to know, you need to tap into these kind of communities where you can collaborate with these kind of people, and include them, so that you get to know what how they are tackling these kind of challenges and how they are able to spread the knowledge. So I think there are a lot of forums on LinkedIn I would recommend you to be part of, so that you get more knowledge of it.
Great. And then now switching gears, do you have any advice for students or professionals who are looking for a job change and trying to move to data literacy on how they can improve their data translation skills and their ability to take something pretty complicated and simplify it?
Uh, well, here's the note that I would recommend or provide to the young talent. So I don't come from data analytics background completely. So I don't have. So you can imagine, if you are already into the data analytics stream and you're trying to seek some knowledge, or you're doing some graduation around it, you obviously will have a lot of programming skills and a lot of statistical knowledge, math skills, which I don't have. I did not have initially. I come from a finance background, completely finance oriented. Although I don't remember any financial terminologies in the
Me
current
too.
space. Okay,
I'm from finance background as well. Yeah.
that's quite good. That's quite good, and I'm sure you would know how complicated it is. But with that space, I did not know that I would end up into this profession. But obviously it happened. It's a journey altogether, I would say, for myself, because as I started coming close to the data, so when I started my career path, I think when I started analyzing things, I understood that my strength comes to analyzing, data, or trying to interpret those results and making some data stories out of it and bringing ideas to life. That's where my journey started from, and I think it was more of a journey since then, because then I started evolving around it, or trying to learn more around that space, getting some more programming knowledges, or statistical or analytical knowledges around that. And that's how I was able to reach where I am today. But this all happened based upon doing a lot of courses online. There's a lot of massive open online courses, mainly from Coursera or edX or Udemy, where they have a lot of free courses, I would say. I mean, although if you want a certification, that's good, but certification will not let you reach the end objective. You also need to have the skill. So don't aim for the certification. I would recommend them to use the skills or learn the skills first. And a lot of material reading is required, because you need to first understand the concepts. I've seen a lot of data scientists these days. They are quite good in programming skills, but a lot of a lot of Stack Overflow content is there, where you have ready-made codes ready, but they don't know what's happening at the back end, or they don't know what the code is actually doing, or trying to interpret those results. And when you present this to the business acumen, they are not able to interpret, or it doesn't align to the strategy. So I would say that go from the base, go from the very simplistic approach in terms of getting the concepts right. Do sort of, obviously you need to do courses, but spend more time exploring some unknown data sets, doing some exploratory data analysis, you have got a lot of forums such as Kaggle or Data World, where you have a lot of data sets where you can just pick up and try to analyze things and make some meaningful results. Obviously, when you start analyzing things, you need to have a problem statement. You need to know what you want to achieve from that data set, because it's just not about collecting all the information and streamlining the whole or normalizing the data and then trying to build some algorithms around it and putting some fancy visuals. That's not the end objective. You need to also know what you want to achieve from this and how you're going to address the problem. So that is more important. So I would recommend them to pick up these kind of data sets. And like I mentioned, you need to be part of these kind of communities, Women in Data, and obviously a lot of other communities where you can get some knowledge from spokespersons and try to build around it. So it's an ongoing journey, I would say, and that's how I was able to build myself. So that's why I wanted to emphasize that I'm totally not coming from this journey. But today, believe me or not, I'm into core analytics. I carry a lot of transformational programs on the data science and explore data analytics space. Believe me, and at the same time, I'm good in programming, but I hate programming. I don't like programming. I want an environment which has no code, where you can just drag and drop. Uh, and you know, it's data storytelling and data literacy is quite important. Well, no matter how expert you are, uh, the way I look at, sometimes I tell my team members as well that you need to be a Sherlock. You need to carry a Sherlock Holmes hat, because it's like a business puzzle. Because whenever you try to solve a problem, you need to carry that curiosity mindset to solve any puzzle. So I think that should be in anyone's mind, whoever is close to data, who wants to be a data enthusiast.
That's fantastic. I love the Sherlock Holmes reference as well. That's actually pretty accurate when it comes to just understanding what the business problem is. And I think one of the important words that you use right now is to simplify as much as you can, because I feel like as a data analyst or someone who is so close to the data, it gets easy for us to get super technical and get go into, like, we believe that the more complicated the model is, the more better it is, but simplifying is definitely the way to go. I appreciate that advice as well. And just following up, I have one small question on that. Like, how would you recommend someone on your team to improve data literacy or that storytelling aspect of it? Because I don't think there are any Coursera data stuff that happens, right?
Uh, there are no such courses, to be quite honest, because um, like I mentioned, it's about your, if you're good in reading, that kind of mindset will automatically come in place, and how the author is trying to convey some stories around it, and obviously it's about all about practice, because not everyone will have the skill at the initial stages. You need to have some experience around it, how you can communicate results, because
Fahad, I'm sorry. I think
yeah,
your
sorry,
finger was
yeah, I
on the
think
camera. Sorry.
my mobile fell off, sorry.
Uh,
So I think this kind of skill is something which comes over time and experience. It's not about getting this on the go and implementing these kind of things, because you may fail miserably at the initial stages, and it's quite good. I would say fail fast than fail later, because that's how you will learn more faster, and try to adapt to the skill. Uh, uh, it's about how you interpret the results, how you are able to think strategically, or try to think from an third person what the person wants to achieve by having this output. It's quite some time where you excel in what you wish to do, or you being quite passionate about so long, as an effective journey, than just being concerned about the result. Don't think about the result, just think about the journey part that you have. And start off with simple, basic, elementary data storytelling skills. Probably read a book or try to convey something what you interpret from that to a third person who are able to who can understand. If the person doesn't understand what you're saying, that means that you need to, go back and go to the drawing board and get that skill again. Obviously, it's my views are regarding how, like I mentioned, how technical you are or how advanced data scientist you are. The business acumen or the business knowledge is the key domain, expertise that you need to have. Even if you are coming from an analytical space, you need to know the business, or you need to know the topic where you're working for. And with that, obviously, you would come to know what the problem statements are, what are the complexities involved, and having the curiosity mindset, you will be able to drive your results in such a manner that automatically it will be a story by itself, rather than just focusing on some random visualizations or trying to build a lot of visuals on a dashboard or try to portray those presentations to any third person. The chances are the person may get even more confused than what is supposed to be. So use very minimum visuals, but more of storytelling skills, that this is what the problem was, this is what you did, how did you reach to that result, and what are the statistical evidences to prove that output result, and how does it align to the problem, how does it solve the business problem. And that's your whole storytelling by itself. Apart from that, I think this is something which comes by experience. I would say there's no book that would give you this kind of skill.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, now moving on, my next question is around like whose responsibility in an organization is it to boost those data literacy skills? Is it the top management? Is it the CEO of the company, or is it the team leader or the data scientist on the team?
Well, the strategic direction obviously has to come from the top. It's a top-down direction. But it's not like I mentioned in the earlier speech, that it's not a one-way traffic. Although the direction may come from the top, so obviously it's the responsibility of the executive level who would drive these kind of initiatives. Your chief data officers or your transformational program of managers, or head of the these kind of initiatives are the ones responsible for this kind of programs down the organization. But having said that, they would just give you the strategic goal where we need to get there. How you need to get there is something that the responsibility of the managers or the team leads, or even the people who are at the downstream level are responsible for these kind of things. Because uh, you know I would say the top level management needs to include, or maybe make people be part of the whole initiative, than work in silos. Because often what happens is, if the communication is not clear enough or the direction is not clear enough, the whole thing will fall off, no
Yeah,
matter how good the strategy is.
yeah,
So make people involved in your so if you're a manager who's listening, or someone who's in the senior most level, make your people be part of the initiatives and make them understand that why is this needed, and why is this the need of the hour, so that people know what they need to do, and empower them. Give them some accountability, or give them some empowerment to analyze things, or give some sort of a decision making, so that they feel quite motivated to do such things. And obviously track this performance by having some KPI measurement, where that to just track how far we have been in terms of the data literacy space, and how well data driven are we. So these kind of things work well, but easier said than done. I would say that it's all this happens when you keep your communication strategy well effective, as well as keep often road shows, so that people are quite well acquainted with these kind of things. But it's an everyone's responsibility, and not just the top level. So it's more of a uh, two-way communication. People at the top will give you the direction, but people from the low to the top needs to say that this is what we understood and this is how we can go there. So it's about bringing the transparency in space.
wonderful, fantastic. Those are some important key points as well. Can you highlight on some challenges that on like becoming a data-driven organization?
Well, I think I mentioned to you about the cultural differences. I think the cultural alignment is the key challenges, I would say. If you want to be a data-driven organization or a team, you need to align the culture and the mindsets of the people across the board. uh, and often what happens is with the evolution of, and we are in the technology disruption space where a lot of technology is there. I always tell my team that, no matter how much of technology that you have a lot of programming like R, Python, and SQL or Azure or any other programming warehouses or whatever, or whether you have some Power BI or Tableau dashboards or business intelligence tool, no matter how many technologies that you have, uh, it's the human intelligence that plays the key role, because technology is just the enabler, but human capital is the actual force that delivers. And often the big projects or transformational projects fail because of the people. It's just not because of the system or strategy, because all those things are good from a theoretical aspect, but from an implementation aspect is the people who would drive this. So you need to align them, like I mentioned. So communication strategies should be well in place. Then often don't think of the tools, because that's one of the key challenges in any organization. Don't rely on the tools. Have some sort of a platform mindset. Give people the platform, and people were able to analyze or pick up the data sets, or sort of a data bricks, where you can connect to the data with a lot of, obviously, the data governance in place, and try to build something out of it. But obviously, have your data in a very centralized repository, because if you give access to different teams, what happens is, especially from a large scale organization, you would create multiple sources of truth, which is not the key thing. And it's obviously, you lose the trust factor in your data, or obviously you will take wrong decisions out of it. So having centralized data or data hub is quite essential. And obviously there needs to be some data quality checks or data governance, which is obviously, I think, the most common challenge across any organization, whether it could be a completely data oriented company or whether they are a startup. So bringing right data to the right people at the right time is, I think, is the need, which I think most of the people are not able to get this objective right, because you don't have the right data in place, or maybe some strategies are not well prepared enough, or the people readiness is not there, or the technological, or the you can say the baseline structure is not ready. But these are some of the key challenges which I could relate to. But having said that, I think uh, recently COVID-19 has created, if you look at it, and this is something which I think about, is this situation has brought a lot of weaknesses amongst many of us, as well as some opportunities. Because when I say weaknesses, it's just mere to do with, we are not, the humans are not meant to sit in the house or lockdown, or they are meant to go outside, have some sunlight, vitamin D, or speak to your peers. These are your weaknesses, and obviously you need to be quite patient. So it's quite depressing times, but obviously it's not something which is going to be permanent in place. And that's something which is very temporary. But what the strengths are is, it's creating a lot of thinking process amongst people, bringing people together. Obviously the social distancing is there, but to be quite honest, to me it's more, it's bringing people much closer. People are more engaged towards communication, which obviously plays a vital role in your data driven strategies as well. But from a personal aspect, these are strengths which are coming out. And to be quite honest, if you look at the economic situation outside, many companies who were not into the digital space, or who were not completely data oriented companies, are suddenly moving into adopting into the digital space, because of the fact that the business operating model is not meant to be this way because of the situation. So they don't have any choice but move into or transition into this kind of digital space. So with that in place, obviously you have certain things to address, such as data literacy and all those things, but I think that will evolve in time. But the way I see it, COVID-19 is one of the reasons which has brought in the digitalization, or data driven companies much faster than what it's supposed to be in the future. So I think interesting times ahead, and certainly there's a sort of there's certainly a sort of promise where most of the companies will come out stronger after this pandemic.
That's great. You actually pointed out two, three important points that I had listed down as well around like COVID-19 data and just the challenges that are focused around data literacy as well. I think important point to note there is that this is like data literacy and improving data literacy is a organizational effort and not just one person's responsibility, and it does have a lot of importance if it's beneficial if you have strong communication skills and strong people management skills and stuff like that. So thank you for bringing that to light as well. And I think we just have 10 more minutes, so I wanted to touch base on two very important questions, and one of them I'm pretty sure that you are pretty passionate about is change management, right? So,
Yeah.
what's the reason? Like, why is change management so important and crucial in today's day and age?
Uh, I think it's, you know to be there are certain roles, people who want to be close to this kind of career expertise. There are certain change manager roles, especially for these kind of initiatives across the organization where you need to drive change. I will speak about it in a couple of minutes, but to be my personal opinion, I think you don't need to have a change manager. Everyone needs to have change, or you carry that skill even from a personal aspect, or whether it could be your career oriented aspect, because uh, you know uh, given that I would speak more on the professional aspect, because job roles will change in the future. You've already seen that a lot of processing related jobs are changing, a lot of automation has come into picture. You've got a perfect suite of Microsoft and AWS, where you have a lot of automation suite, where you can do things in a much better manner, so that you have more time spent on analytical utilize your analytical skills, or analyze data, so that you can have more better informed decisions. So job roles will change, and it's already changing, so it's important to change yourself before somebody else changes you. That because and it should not be a forced change. It should come within yourselves, whether it could be a personal related, or it could be a professional related. It should come within yourselves. And the way I see it, the different drivers of change, obviously I would not categorize certain set of people, but the way I see it is you have three different types of people, and this is something which I've thought about personally. uh, you know there's survivors of change, resistors of change, and drivers of change. So there are three different types of people, and just to explain or elaborate more on these, drivers of change are those who are well engaged, who can do things in a very different manner, who are very innovative, and obviously they have the skill set to do things or execute things. But obviously they would not be everywhere. You know, they would be obviously very tech savvy, but they are not available everywhere. They are obviously limited, and obviously with the harnessing of the knowledge of data science and data analytics in space, we'll have more drivers of change in the future. But at this moment of time, I think we are still not there. So obviously, but there are some people who are sitting into this zone. uh, the other part is the survivors of change, which means that they are not very tech savvy. They're just people who will interpret results from this, or get the direction from the senior most level, and do things the way they want to. But often what happens is, if there is any change in place, or change in process, or if there's a change in the stakeholder management, or if it's to do with the customer behavioral change, it could be anything. These kind of people will survive to that change. They would welcome that change, but obviously not resist to it. So you would want most of your people, whether it could be in a large scale organization or it could be a team, you want most of your people to uh, perhaps be in the survivors of change bucket, than the resistors of change, which is the third most set of people, because those people they don't welcome change, and they don't challenge the convention. They just want to lead the way it is, be more process related oriented, although the technology is there in place, but they don't want to change. So you don't want your people or workforce to be in this zone. You want more drivers of change, and obviously more survivors of change, which because of which your data literacy program will be more effective. In terms of, like I mentioned, I would repeat this again, change management is more about, communication, being more flexible and having your workforce be part of the program than making them just be, you can say, being more diplomatic or work in silos where they're asked to do what they're told to do. It should not be that way, because then they would not be motivated to be more change reactors. At the same time, like I mentioned, change the way you think or change the way you look at things, from a whether it could be from business intelligence perspective or data science perspective. Keep away from the jargons, keep away from the buzzwords. Just be basic, just be more simplistic as much as you can, and just look at the concepts and try to do things in a much different way, which obviously could be impactful for your company. That's the key message which I would give to the people. And business acumen or domain knowledge is the most important element here, no matter how much skills you have. So uh, with all this in place, if you have, obviously you would evolve and the change would happen by itself.
So I have one question, one follow-up question to that is, you said business acumen is extremely important, right? For someone who has just joined a new industry or a new company, what recommendation do you have for them to fasten their to like develop their business acumen a little bit more faster? Um, and what are like some of like basic reading skills or stuff like that that they should focus on?
That's a very good question, and it often happens that a lot of fresh graduates, they want to join companies, and I hope they get the best career path. But like I mentioned, I'm being a finance graduate. I never chose to be into this zone. It just happened by itself because of the passion. So the first thing is you need to be very passionate about what you choose, or whether it could be not to do with your experience or your education. It's fine, so long as you have the passion to be into that zone. So if you have the passion, then automatically you'll be able to harness the business domain knowledge. As a start, obviously you would need to consult with people who are already on the job, and who are already well versed into these kind of skills. There are a lot of SOPs or process related documents. Personally speaking, I hate it, because those are very it's just there. But if you look at, it's just not a living document, I would say. Although people do say that it's a living document, but I totally challenge them, because it's just a document. If you look at the world outside, it's changing. Technology is changing. Your business operating model is changing. Your customers are changing. Your stakeholders are changing. Obviously your talent is, the workforce, the talent, everything is changing. So don't rely on the SOPs. Although it's good to refer, it's good to know what the department is looking for, but try to seek or try to ask questions. Asking the right questions is the key thing over here, which will help you understand your business domain knowledge. You may ask some dumb questions, that's fine. You never know that it could be a very brilliant question, and it could be some question which may not be thought about in the past. Personally, I would say that engaging yourself in the meetings where you have this kind of talents, or different managerial people who are there in this part of sessions, you'll learn a lot. You'll obviously learn the thinking process and what goes behind the scenes. What happens is, especially, and I've seen it myself, where I've led many strategic meetings, and the way I do it is I involve people from different teams. Obviously, they are related to your business, but they're coming from a different team environment, because you need different thinking skill set. Someone needs to challenge your thinking process, or someone needs to challenge the whole business knowledge, because it's only then that you would evolve ideas, or you can make ideas to life, bring ideas to life. So uh, have that mindset, challenge the whole rules and regulations that you have in place, or the knowledge that already is there in your business, and try to build upon it. And that's where your experience will come into picture. Because if you just follow the protocols, or if you just obviously, when I say protocol, is not to do with the rules and regulations that has to be obviously governed but or followed. But you need to just maybe perhaps break the rules, sort of thing. Especially when you come to analyze things, don't follow things which someone is already doing it, because you or me can have similar thought process, but a third person may think in a different way and come up with more ideas. So have that mindset in place, especially. And that's how you will, answer your own questions. Because the way I see it, it's the freshers who bring in a lot of opportunities than people who are already into this domain. So I would say that utilize the best time as much as you can, and especially when you are joining a company, and challenge everything you can, so that you make some ideas, or how you can execute plans, and how you can make decisions into a value based company. So I would say that's an opportunity for freshers.
That's great. That's actually pretty important, and I'm pretty sure that actually exist for everyone, and for everyone who's joining a new industry or a new organization right now. So coming back to my last question of this webinar, and something that I do definitely want to address, because um, so to be very honest, we get this question a lot from our community, and specifically because everyone right now wants the opportunity to grow and learn, right? So talking about COVID-19 and the way that an individual who is working from home or is studying right now, how they can use the data, and if you have any recommendation on potential resources that are out there that are that an individual can support, or something that they need to focus on in terms of data, and how data can be used for the relief efforts that are going around.
I think there are a lot of reads on COVID-19 articles or publications. There are a lot of research papers around it. My wife she's into research, core research. Although I have been very fortunate to make her, learn the analytical skills, and she's quite passionate about it. So she's able to utilize her skills into, these kind of research publications. To be quite honest, I think COVID-19 is something which is not familiar to many of us. I think I can relate this to some of the examples in Dubai, I would say, whereby they are trying to interpret how the market is moving, or how the world is moving on the COVID-19 space by utilizing the data. They are seeing how the number of cases are coming up. What is the emerging, or the graph that goes upwards, where a lot of cases emerge. I think the phase 2, I think I would say, and then the forecast where it will fall eventually. So they are trying to they're trying to analyze on those aspects, and being more proactive by having your readiness of, or maybe sort of they have hospital beds. They can forecast how many beds are required, even though they may not need so many beds, but the technology is there, or the whole environment is ready for if there is any outbreak that happens from a large scale aspect. Dubai, I mean, not Dubai, but United Arab Emirates is not there as compared to US, but the readiness is the environment has already been created, especially from an hospitalization aspect, from a relief aspect, in terms of the hospitality, the food, the grocery stores where the food consumption is not in scarce. There are a lot of food, and obviously it's all happening because of the demand that is happening from the consumers. They want to ensure that there's no scarcity over here, especially from when people are situated in the home households. So it's all happening because of data, and there's a lot of data sets that one can analyze, but it's often good to also see the conditions of the country, and try to, and let's say if you are based in United States and you would try to research on how the things are moving in US, it's good to know how other countries are reacting. Try to see their research publications, how they are trying to address this kind of problems, or how they're trying to maintain social distancing by doing different things or different initiatives. Because I think the key reason here is you need to focus or maybe have those kind of arrangements in terms of the hospital, beds or ventilators or those kind of things that are needed for people. You won't believe that in Dubai we have, because we have many hospitals, and obviously we also have something called what do you say, the quarantining at hotel. So people at the hotel, they are being quarantined. It's more of a self quarantine, but obviously it's in the hotel, but they are trying to give as much as care as possible by giving them those kind of tiffins where healthy food is given to them. They're being taken care of, and all this happens because they are able to focus the number of people are there in the hotel, so that there's no such issues for them. So yeah, I mean, look at the situation of your country, plus at the same time look at how other countries are reacting towards, and try to build some recommendations around it, and reach and try to be involved into a lot of communities who are close to this topic, or a sort of a relief fund aspect where they can do things from a community aspect, and make things in a much and simplified manner, so that a lot of people benefit out of it. So you need to involve them as well, because just not by analyzing or utilizing data will solve the problem. You need to involve communities over here. So I think that's the way I look at it. It's just that, like I said, it's evolving. Everyone is learning out of this experience. So yeah,
The good
that's
thing
the way.
is data does not have a border or a geographical border, and it's important to use the research that people are already doing for your local community's benefit. That's wonderful. Great. This has been wonderful. I was just writing my notes and everything, and this personally for me, data literacy and something called as data translation, how to take data and provide insights to the business, is a very fascinating topic. So personally it has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm pretty sure our speakers are also going to enjoy the entire conversation as well. Do you have any last closing notes or something that you want to share?
I think I think you're doing a fabulous job, especially from spreading this knowledge to the wider audiences. And I hope that many people across the network are able to seek some of the knowledge and experiences out of these kind of sessions. So I would say continue to do the Women in Data is a great platform for the women empowerment, and you have more women leaders. I personally speaking, this is, like I mentioned, this is my first session where this kind of webinar is taking place. But the way I see it, I think I would hope that this community evolves around the globe and it's able to reach its objectives. And we have a lot of more passionate women in place, and obviously males who are able to contribute to the community, and work in collaborative manner than working in silos. That's the way I look at it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for being a great partner throughout this, and for organizing and sharing your knowledge with our community. I truly appreciate. I mean, it has been wonderful since the time I've joined this organization. The kind of support we have received from not just like specific gender or specific geographical area, just overall, just holistic support that we have received. It has been great, and I'm truly grateful for this opportunity as well. So yeah, thank you so much once again, and we truly appreciate your time here.
Most welcome. Most welcome, Raj.
Yeah.